Hassan to Straz Center on Friday, October 10th. Tickets available at strazcenter.org. Support for the Zest podcast comes from WUSF members and Adelaide Interiors, with a new location now open on Kennedy Boulevard east of Habana Avenue in Tampa, offering lunch and learn events and featuring the Wellness Kitchen, where design meets well-being. Learn more and see the schedule at adelaide.com.
Are your property taxes too high? Governor Ron DeSantis wants them gone. He says it's like paying rent on something you already own. But if property taxes went away, what would that mean for things like schools, public parks, or fire and police services? I'm Matthew Petty, and coming up on Florida Matters Live and Local, do you want to eliminate these taxes altogether, and do you value what they pay for? Call 813-755-6562, that's 813-755-6562, and let us know. You can also send us an email, FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. And the Rays' new owners have a bold new vision for a ballpark, but where and how much should the public chip in? Plus, is your pet your hero? Find out what it takes to train a service dog. That's coming up on Florida Matters Live and Local. First, news.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. Former FBI Director James Comey has pleaded not guilty to criminal charges brought by federal prosecutors. The case has fueled concerns that the Justice Department is being used to go after President Trump's perceived political enemies. NPR's Ryan Lucas has more.
Comey's attorney entered the not guilty plea at his arraignment in federal court in Alexandria, Virginia. The former FBI director faces one false statements count and one count of obstruction of a congressional proceeding. The charges stem from testimony Comey gave to Congress in 2020. The Justice Department charged him just days after President Trump publicly called on Attorney General Pam Bondi to go after Comey and two other political foes. Trump also pushed out the top federal prosecutor in the Eastern District of Virginia and replaced him with a former insurance lawyer who once served as Trump's personal attorney, who days later secured the Comey indictment. That has fueled growing concerns that the Justice Department is being weaponized to target Trump's opponents. Ryan Lucas, NPR News, Washington.
We've entered the second week of the shutdown of the federal government with no end in sight. The longest was 35 days in 2019. NPR's Domenico Montanaro has more on what the path out might look like.
Already there are delays at airports around the country as air traffic controllers call out sick, and they haven't even missed a full paycheck yet. That'll happen October 28th. The White House isn't budging and is trying to blame Democrats. Democrats are holding firm on extending Affordable Care Act subsidies, which expire at the end of the year. Right now, it appears to be a game of chicken, with the way out likely going to come down to who wins the messaging battle and which side feels the most pressure. Do Democrats fold and agree to a short-term reopening? Do Republicans appear to go too far with attempted firings and cutting off funds to blue states? At this point, it's not clear who has the advantage, and this could go on a while. Domenico Montanaro, NPR News, Washington.
Forecasters think global trade will grow faster this year than they had expected. NPR's Scott Horsley has more on the latest outlook from the World Trade Organization.
The WTO expects global goods trade to grow by 2.4% this year, more than twice as fast as it had been projecting just a couple months ago. That's partly thanks to robust trade in computer chips and other products tied to artificial intelligence. Tesla is rolling out cheaper models of two of its electric vehicles. The Model Y and Model 3 will both list for under $40,000. Tesla is trying to recharge sales, which have been hurt by increased competition and political backlash to CEO Elon Musk. And gold prices continue to sparkle. After topping $4,000 an ounce this week for the first time ever, gold continues to see strong demand from anxious investors seeking a safe haven. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
Wall Street's higher at last check. The Dow is up 183 points. The Nasdaq up 193. S&P 500 up 37. You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive, with small business insurance for protecting a variety of business types with multiple coverage options, designed to fit business owners' needs. More about small business insurance is at progressivecommercial.com.
You're listening to WUSF 89.7. I'm Craig Kopp. The new owners of the Tampa Bay Rays held their first news conference yesterday at Tampa's George Steinbrenner Field, where the team played last season. Their contract says once Tropicana Field is repaired, they have to play there through 2028. After that, they're looking to build a domed stadium through a public-private partnership. The development would include hotels, retail, restaurants, and bars. Ken Babby is the Rays' new chief executive officer.
We'll come forward doing our part, but we need the partnership of the community to be able to make this work. And that ultimately will be a public-private partnership that's going to add jobs, deliver value. We think find really unique ways of being able to make Tampa Bay a better place to work, live, and play.
The new owners are looking for at least 100 acres. Their model is a mixed-use development around the Atlanta Braves Stadium. Governor Ron DeSantis says the ongoing federal government shutdown is not slowing down the pace of removing immigrant detainees from Florida. Speaking in the Panhandle Tuesday, DeSantis said deportation efforts are ongoing at facilities in North Florida, as well as the remote facility in the Everglades some call Alligator Alcatraz. DeSantis says another facility in the Panhandle will start accepting immigrant detainees shortly. He said the efforts will continue regardless of when congressional leaders come to a budget agreement.
We're going to do what we need to do to help the people of Florida, but I will tell you on the core missions that we're working with them on, such as combating illegal immigration and facilitating the removal of illegal aliens from our communities and from our country, that mission continues.
DeSantis' remarks came at an event where he also announced the state has now doled out more than $63 million in bonuses over the past 3 years to 9,400 law enforcement recruits in the state of Florida. We're looking at partly sunny skies today and dry conditions, just a 20% chance of showers and storms with a high of 91. I'm Craig Kopp, WUSF 89.7 News.
You can explore the St. Pete Arts District with Art Walk this Saturday and the second Saturday of every month. You'll discover galleries and studios with new exhibits and local artists this Saturday from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. For details, visit stpeteartsalliance.org.
You're listening to Florida Matters, live and local, broadcasting from the Doctors Lorraine Rubis and Neil Frankel studio in Tampa. I'm Matthew Petty. A new ballpark for the Tampa Bay Rays by 2029. The Rays' new owners say they can do it. Patrick Zalupski leads the ownership group and expects the team to play ball in the new ballpark in 4 years. He said it will be part of a massive development of at least 100 acres. Where it remains will be is yet to be known, and he didn't guarantee it would stay in St. Pete.
You know, part of our arrangement with Stu through the process was that we would not have any discussions with any public officials until we had officially closed on the team, which happened last Tuesday.
Well, that's Patrick Zalupski there. The owners want a development like the Atlanta Battery, the ballpark complex for the Braves. Ken Babby is the team's new CEO. He says the community where the Rays end up needs to have a financial stake in the team as well.
And we'll come forward doing our part, but we need the partnership of the community to be able to make this work. And that ultimately will be a public-private partnership that's going to add jobs, deliver value. We think find really unique ways of being able to make Tampa Bay a better place to work, live, and play, and create something, frankly, that isn't here today.
Well, to fill in some of the details about the yet-to-be-built stadium, here's Ashley Kreitzer, editor-at-large for the Tampa Bay Business Journal. Ashley, thanks so much for being with us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
We're also joined by Tom Scott, Professor Emeritus of History and Campus Historian at Kennesaw State University in Georgia. Tom saw what happened with the Braves and their stadium. Tom, thank you so much for being with us as well.
You're quite welcome.
You can join the conversation too. Where should a new ballpark for the Rays go? The number is 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. Also, are you on board with public tax dollars being used for a new stadium complex? If you've got some thoughts on that, give us a call, 813-755-6562. Ashley, there's been so much speculation about the sale of the Rays and what it means for the team. You broke a story yesterday about a possible site. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Sure. So when Patrick Zalupski came out yesterday and said we're looking for 100 acres, it greatly limited the number of potential sites in the Tampa Bay region that could accommodate a development like that. He did say there are more properties than you might suspect that fit that criteria. But when developers divulge things like acreage and a timeline, it means they're farther down the road than we maybe know. But the site in question, the news that broke yesterday, is Hillsborough Community College's property, which is actually right near where that press conference was held on Dale Mabry Highway. It's right near Steinbrenner Field, the spring training facility of the New York Yankees, and across Dale Mabry from Raymond James Stadium, home of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it's 108 acres.
Yep.
And HCC so far says we're excited by the possibility. They've just had very early conversations. There's no proposals yet, but HCC says they would like to have a presence in that mixed use district if that project comes to fruition.
Does it mean, though, that the school itself is going to have to go somewhere else? I'm just not sure how that's going to work. Like, do you have those sort of details at hand?
I don't have details, but what I surmised yesterday from the conversation is that it would be a temporary displacement because they want to be a tenant in this new district if it comes together, which when you think about it, that's a pretty cool anchor. You have a school, you have people coming there every day that feeds the restaurants, the retailers, above and beyond the 81 home games a year that Major League Baseball would potentially bring to the property. So I think HCC, if this happens, would have to shuffle students around for a bit, but it seems like that would be temporary and they would get a very cool modern campus in exchange. Some of the buildings on their current campus were built in the 1960s.
Indeed. Well, the mayors of both St. Petersburg and Tampa were on hand at the press conference with the owners yesterday. The Tampa Bay Times suggests the St. Pete leaders were dissed. That might hint where the stadium might go. Tampa Bay Mayor Jane Castor said she's eager to talk to the team, but she hedged when it came to whether the city or county would allow for public financing.
What we've said is that we're not going to spend tax dollars on building a sports facility.
St. Petersburg Mayor Ken Welch met with the owners yesterday after the press conference. Beforehand, he said the city's long-running attempt to rebuild the area around Tropicana Field and honour broken promises to the residents of the city's gas plant neighbourhood remained front of mind.
We'll let them know what our priorities are. And again, if there's a 100-acre minimum, gas plant's 86 acres. So that kind of makes our decision-making easier.
Ashley, I wonder what you're hearing of that. I mean, the 100 acres is quite a bit bigger than the gas plant site. Does that completely rule out St. Pete and that site?
I don't think it does. I think everything's on the table, especially when you look at the previous proposal for Tropicana Field and also a proposal that emerged last week from Kathy Wood, the celebrity investor in Ellison Development here in Tampa. They were already talking about adding an additional 10 acres to the Tropicana Field property, and they have submitted an unsolicited bid to Mayor Ken Welch's administration where they would redevelop that property. Now, they have flexibility to include a ballpark there if the Rays end up wanting to go there. They do have flexibility on that property, but 95 acres, 100 acres, I think that's pretty close. I don't think that alone rules out the Tropicana Field property.
Okay, so those Rays fans in St. Petersburg are going to be on tenterhooks a little bit longer, I think. We're talking about the Tampa Bay Rays. Where should a new ballpark for the Rays go? And do you want your tax dollars to help pay for it? The number is 813-755-6562. If you have thoughts on that, 813-755-6562. You can send us an email. We're at FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Tom, Scott, I want to get to you soon, but just before we go to that, can you explain for us, Ashley, what does a public-private partnership actually mean?
So it can mean many different things. I think that what Ken Babby was saying yesterday is there will be some component of public money in this deal. And what that looks like is really based on where the stadium goes, right? So in Pinellas County, with Pinellas Beaches, Clearwater Beach, St. Pete Beach, they have an incredible amount of bed tax dollars at their disposal. That's how they were funding their half of the stadium under the previous deal. Now, if you come over to Hillsborough County, several of the sites in Tampa that were in the running previously, I don't believe this applies to the HCC site, but some of the previous properties in Ybor City or closer to the Channel District are in something called a CRA, a Community Redevelopment Agency. And what that means is that any tax dollars generated in those sites stays in there. It's not swept into the general fund. So that's not really taxpayer dollars. There could also be a service fee charged in a district. If they built a mixed-use district, you get a beer there, there's an extra tax, and that funds the debt on the stadium. So the public component of this, I mean, it could be anything. That's what we don't know. What we need to see is the ask. How much money are they looking for? And then our elected officials have to figure out how much they're willing to spend and how ultimately they're going to fund it.
Yeah, lots to consider there. Tom Scott, the Atlanta Braves home, the Battery, was praised as a success by the new Rays owners. So they've clearly got an idea of what they want this new complex to look like, wherever it ends up. Was it a smooth ride to the grand opening of the Battery, though? That was back in 2017, right?
It opened in 2017, you're correct. And I was thinking of that timeline of this is 2025, and if they're thinking about having the stadium by 2029, that's just about exactly what happened with the Braves moving to Cobb County, because a lot of these discussions were taking place 2013, maybe a little before then. A lot of these things were taking place in secret, so I'm not sure exactly when all the discussions got underway, but it becomes public by 2013. And by 2017, what today is called Truist Park was open, and the Braves were playing ball games. So it was really phenomenally fast to do all of that in 4 years' time.
Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like the timeline is kind of on par, which may be a little surprising to some folks thinking about what they want to do here. But what was there some pushback to the Battery when it was built, when it was open, when the team moved?
Was it a pushback from the public, are you saying?
Yeah, was there pushback from the public?
Well, it was controversial, and for good reason. And excuse me, one thing that was different is that we were still coming through the recession of 2008, 2009, when all of this happened in the Atlanta area. And, I did an oral history interview a couple of years ago with Lisa Cupid, who's the chair of the Cobb County Commission nowadays, and was a district commissioner at the time, and was one of the opponents of the deal to begin with, although she got on board and became a total supporter later on. But she was talking about how they were having to tell department chairs of different parts of Cobb County government, we can't restore your funding to pre-recession levels yet. We just don't have the money. And then all of a sudden, they hear they've got to spend millions of dollars on this project with the Braves. And that was, I guess, a tough sell for some of the department chairs that were, not able to provide all the services that they were providing before. Quite yet. So the timing was a problem back then. And I think the other major problem was that so much of this was done in secret. And Tim Lee, who was the county commission chair at the time, was going to be defeated for re-election in 2016, largely because of the Braves deal.
Right.
Even though nowadays everybody thinks of them as a saint, that was a fabulous, visionary project.
So it sounds like there was a lot of success around the Braves Battery Park, but it took a while to get there. And it sounds to me too that kind of transparency is the order of the day here. We are going to have to leave that part of the discussion there. But before we leave this, Ashley, real quick, what are you watching for next in the last 15 seconds or so here?
It's the public ask. It is what is the dollar figure, and it's already out there. The Tampa Bay Times reported that Commissioner Josh Wastel said he's heard, he doesn't have firsthand knowledge apparently, but he has heard there could be potentially $1 billion ask of Hillsborough County. So I think that as soon as we see that public ask, that's when the real negotiations begin.
And let me say about the Braves that the county paid about 45% of the cost of building the stadium.
Okay, well, that's a good
They
figure.
didn't put any money into building the Battery. And this was just a visionary project of the Braves to build this huge complex that draws people year round, not just in baseball season.
We're gonna have to leave it there, but those are some good figures to keep in mind. Tom Scott, Professor Emeritus of History and Campus History on Kennesaw State University. Thank you so much. Also speaking with Ashley Kreitzer, Editor-at-Large with the Tampa Bay Business Journal. Coming up, Governor Ron DeSantis is pushing hard to eliminate or reduce property taxes. We'll talk about the politics of that when Florida Matters Live and Local continues.
I'm Rob Schmitz.
I have the honor to announce on behalf of the court that the October 2024 term of the Supreme Court of the United States is now closed, and the October 2025 term is now convened.
The Supreme Court just kicked off a new term. Tomorrow it looks at the timeline for counting mail-in ballots after an election. That's next time on Here and Now.
Coming up at 1 after Florida Matters Live and Local.
It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and Baycare reminds you to take control of your breast health and schedule your annual screening mammogram. Discover Baycare's commitment to offering an exceptional mammogram experience and schedule online at baycare.org/breasthealth. Bach Tower Gardens hosts Dreamweaver Tales from the Trees. It's an all-new immersive art exhibition where the lines between nature and the mystical blur with fairies, sprites, and more. Details at bachtowergardens.org.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Governor Ron DeSantis is pushing hard to eliminate or reduce property taxes. We've been hearing a lot from you about property taxes too. Some of you are asking for a break. Others are worried about services going away if those property taxes go away as well. If you think you're paying too much or you're concerned about what a reduction in property taxes could mean for you, let us know. Send an email to FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Well, for more on the politics of property taxes, here's WUSF's Douglas Soul with the Your Florida team. He reports on state government from Tallahassee. Douglas, thank you so much for joining us.
Thrilled to be on.
Well, let's start with the latest thing from Governor Ron DeSantis. He wants a special session to cut property taxes.
We could potentially have a special session on property tax right in the middle of the Republican primary season in July or August. Imagine that. I don't think a lot of these guys would want to vote the wrong way then.
All right, so Douglas, what is the governor hoping for?
So the governor has been railing against the property tax for months, and he's gotten louder and louder. Right now, he's been focusing his calls on the property tax as it applies to that on people's primary properties. Mm-hmm. He says he's not really leaning as much on wanting to do something on commercial properties like Airbnbs. There's still not an exact proposal, mind you, but he's made it clear he's thinking Floridians are paying too much in the property tax and that he, at a philosophy level, is against it. He compares it to Floridians paying rent on their homes that they own.
Yeah, so just going back up a little bit, because as you point out, he's been talking about this for months now. What's the basic argument there?
Well, as stated, Governor DeSantis thinks that the property tax has become too much of a burden for Floridians. He also accuses local governments of spending too much, and that, in principle, the property tax, in his mind, is not a good thing. He believes it's rent on the property you own, and that you should just be able to, in his words, own your property once you pay it off. Mm-hmm. Just have it paid off instead of a monthly payment to the government.
So property taxes, as we know, pay for things like roads, schools, services like firefighters and other services that people rely on. What happens if property taxes go away altogether? And is this something that mayors and other local government leaders are worried about?
That's the big question, especially if the property tax were to go away entirely. Right now, it's not looking like it would be that. It would be some other reduction, though. Any reduction in the property tax, which funds local governments in many ways, would have a huge effect on local governments. They're speaking up now, voicing their concern. They're worried a reduction would really limit the services they provide, whether it be public safety, education, roads, and so much more. DeSantis, though, meanwhile accuses them, at least many of them, of wasteful spending.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk more about that then, because we talked on Monday on Florida Matters Live and Local about the Florida DOGE Task Force. That's the Department of Government Efficiency, modeled after Elon Musk's efforts at the federal level. Are these things connected, DeSantis' war on property taxes and the spotlight on local government spending?
It's interesting, especially considering how much the state budget has risen in recent years compared to especially pre-COVID times, that this DOGE effort, at least the advertisement and the promotion of this DOGE effort, has been loudly and avidly focused at local governments. And the governor's office and other state officials have really made no secret as to why And it's, a mechanism to bash the property tax. These DOGE-focused looks at local governments, these audits, I'm sure listeners have heard it possibly about even their own municipality or county. They're garnering continual headlines. And those, headlines, at least below them, are quotes attacking the spending priorities of towns, cities, counties, and government officials, at least state government officials, are hoping that sticks in people's mind, because while lawmakers have to pass something reducing the property tax, for that to stick, the people of Florida in the next election have to vote yes on the ballot, and they have to vote yes by at least a 60% threshold.
Okay, so you're saying it's connected to something that would be in the way of a constitutional amendment?
Yes, absolutely. And we know from 2024 that those are often hugely fought in close margined campaigns and competitions. Some two big amendments in 2024, one that would have allowed recreational marijuana, another that would have expanded abortion access, lost by percentage points. And, millions and millions from both sides went into that. I imagine there would be a loud focus on property tax if it did make the ballot, which is currently the intent of at least House lawmakers.
Yeah. Now, you've been talking with people about the property taxes they pay. Let's just hear from a couple of them. Here's Margie Morrison Richardson. She's retired. She's in her 60s. She lives in Carabel on the Gulf Coast, and she likes the idea of property tax relief for people like her.
I believe that after you get to a certain age, you've paid your debt. Give us a break. We worked hard. We've paid our taxes.
You also heard from Jacksonville homeowner Susie Stone. She's a retired pharmacy rep.
The real problem is not property taxes, it's my homeowner's insurance. My homeowner's insurance has gone up exponentially at a greater rate than my property taxes have.
All right, so a couple of different views there. What else did you hear from Susie and Margie?
I think, like many people, no one wants to pay more. Certainly, property taxes are more expensive, even though the increases on the property tax over the years of you owning a home are capped at a certain amount. Though, your property price rises, which, as any Floridian knows, property prices are rising, that tax rises too. But, identified by my sources is something that, I think many Floridians would also talk about, which is that it's not just property tax that's taking dollars out of their wallets, it's property insurance. Many Floridians are reporting that their property insurance bill is far higher than their property tax bill, and that they would like to see lawmakers and other state officials focus on that. Now, some people bashing the property tax increases also say that they wish the government would take action on the property tax. So, a mix of beliefs here. And I think, though, central to everything, whether you're for or against it, is this knowledge that Floridians are paying a lot of money. Many call it an affordability crisis.
So DeSantis is just one part of the legislative puzzle on taxes. What are you hearing from lawmakers?
A lot are pretty closed-mouthed, especially on the Senate side. We don't completely know what they'd want to do. That chamber has been more reserved and cautious about lowering taxes, more so than the House at least. Just look at last session when the Senate was a lot more cautious about cutting the sales tax. The House, meanwhile, has a committee up and running right now, hoping to develop something that can be voted on when session starts in January. We don't know what it will be, but, lawmakers in that chamber have made clear it's going to be something or some things.
Okay, so regular session, and then as we heard earlier, the governor is also floating the idea of a special session later in the year. So a couple of different ideas kind of floating around there.
Yeah, and the special session mentioned was really a way that DeSantis could up the pressure. He indicated last week that if lawmakers didn't do it or didn't do it to his liking with something big enough, he might call that session. But he also said, and he went as far as to say that he could even call it during the primary election season, which would really inconvenience campaigning lawmakers. And he believes that it would put them on the spot to vote in a pro-tax cut way with the election pending.
Right, so really ramping up the political pressure there. WUSF's Douglas Soul with the Your Florida team reporting on state government from Tallahassee. Thank you so much for your insights, Douglas.
Thank you for having me on.
Well, up next, what do your property taxes pay for and what are your concerns about them? Call and let us know. We're at 813-755-6562. Send an email to FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. The conversation about property taxes continues when Florida Matters Live and Local is back. after this.
In Italy, a supervolcano outside of Naples is stirring in a way it hasn't for centuries. Hundreds of thousands of people live in the crater left by its past eruptions.
One thing that you learn very soon is that we do not have the control. Nature has the control.
I'm Mary Louise Kelly. We hear from the scientists studying the volcano at its crater on All Things Considered from NPR News.
4 o'clock today on WUSF.
WUSF thanks Community Foundation Tampa Bay for a generous grant supporting our Edward R. Murrow Award for Overall Excellence in Large Market Radio. Your investment in public media helps us serve our community. Thank you for believing in WUSF. Seitenbacher, with a new web shop. Healthy muesli, cold-pressed oils, and vegetable broth mix delivered to your door from right here in Tampa Bay. Details at Seitenbacher.com. Seitenbacher. Seitenbacher.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Well, no one cheers about paying taxes, but would you go so far as the governor? Governor Ron DeSantis wants to cut or eliminate property taxes. And as you heard earlier, he's putting pressure on lawmakers to support him. WSF's Your Florida team reporting on how decisions made in Tallahassee affect Floridians. They've been hearing from plenty of you. Some of you say that property taxes are too high, you want to break on your taxes, and then there are people like Julie Jackson from Vero Beach.
Does that mean we'll pay a 20% sales tax to make up for a property tax elimination? That does not seem feasible to me unless they make it up somewhere else, and they're not talking about that.
So, what most concerns you about this property tax debate? How do property taxes benefit you? Call 813-755-6562. You can also email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. We're joined by Monica White, retired military member. She's not of benefits collecting age yet, and says by cutting property taxes, it would allow me to stay in my mortgage-free, paid-off home. Monica, thanks so much for being with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we are also joined by Bob Enriquez, the Hillsborough County property appraiser. Bob, thank you for being with us.
Absolutely. I apologize. I'm on the way to a conference in the Panhandle, so the time change. I almost forgot about it. I almost missed the call. So
that's totally okay. We forget sometimes that Florida has 2 time zones. It's a big state.
It does. It does.
We're also joined by George Cruz, the Manatee County Commissioner. George, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Monica, let me just start with you real quick. What are your specific concerns with property taxes?
My concerns are the price of, obviously, I'm on fixed income. Mine have jumped only because I've recently inherited the home. Mm-hmm. So the same homestead exemptions are not going to transfer over to me as I've purchased. But the problem is for me is just the affordability of it all. I will not be able to manage what the proposed taxes are. They're saying they're going to be a range of $7,000 to $9,000 and change. That's for November, whenever they narrow it down. But if you factor that as a monthly expense, that's roughly $600 to $700 a month. Just for your property tax.
That sounds very high. I mean, do you mind if I ask kind of what kind of property are we talking about here? Because I believe the average is sort of more in the range of $2,000 to $2,500.
That's what I thought. Even previously, it was like $1,600 a year.
Wow! And you're in Central Tampa.
I'm in Central Tampa, 33609 zip code. That's the West Shore Stadium, Midtown, Kennedy, Del Mabry area.
Yeah. We've heard from some folks saying they're considering getting out of Florida because of the cost of property taxes, other things like homeowners insurance factoring in there too. Is that something that you think about?
I don't think of leaving, no. I may think of trying to go to another property or something like that, but I don't think of ever leaving. I'm a native Floridian, born and raised in Tampa, in the state of Florida, rather.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's go to the phones. I think we've got Angie on the line. Angie, what's on your mind? Angie, go for it.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, I just want to make a comment about the property tax. I'm all for the
change in getting rid of or lowering the property tax. We're in the 33611 zip code. We pay over $12,000 a year for a single family, moderate, medium income home. And it just goes up exponentially every year. I feel like everybody in Florida uses all of the amenities, the roads and everything else the property tax pays for. Why can't we up the sales tax and make everyone pay, the tourists, the renters, everybody here? I mean, I don't see a problem with that. That's kind of, equity for everybody, equal equity for everybody. Just, I feel like because I can buy a house, I'm being, used to pay for what everybody else uses as well.
Angie, thank you so much for weighing in. I appreciate that. Let's see if we can get some more callers in here if we can. I think we've got Mike calling in. Mike, you're on the air.
Yes, hi. I agree with Angie. I'm a homeowner here in Hillsborough, and I see it as two kind of things going on between your owners and then folks that don't. And it seems like you are punishing more with property tax those who've worked hard and got the property, because everybody does use those services. And it seems like the equitable thing to do would be to move it towards some sort of sales tax so that everybody is paying towards the same services that we're all using. It just seems like the logical thing to do.
Right. So you'd be okay with the sales tax. You're not so keen on property tax. Are you worried though about services going away if property taxes, were eliminated altogether?
Well, I look at other things that have changed, like even our healthcare. If only a portion of the counties are paying into this property tax, what happens when everyone pays into this? It seems like it was lowered overall for the mass, individually paying in a sales tax, because you're going to pay sales tax based on what you're purchasing and what you're, you know what I mean? And I just think that if you spread it over many more people, it wouldn't be something that would be, unmanageable, and I just think it'd be better off.
Yeah.
If everybody's using it anyway.
Mike, thank you so much for your call. Bob, Enrique, if I could get you in on this.
Yes.
So you're kind of looking at this from a professional point of view, right? You're the property tax appraiser. I'm hearing some pretty high figures there in the thousands and thousands of dollars. I mean, what are you hearing when you hear folks say?
Well, first of all, I would encourage those folks that have called in to call our office and let us take a look at their assessment. Now, I think, and I believe it was Monica's case. If her issue is that there's the reset. So if you're looking at the previous owner's property taxes, and again, not looking exactly at her, not knowing exactly where she is, but if she purchased a home that say that the previous owner had owned for a period of time, 10 or 15 years or more, they were paying based on an assessed value that was much lower than what the value of the property actually is. That's how our system is set up because of the Save Our Homes cap. And then with the reset, when she purchased the home, the assessed value went back up to the just market value minus any exemptions that she may had, and she restarted the Save Our Homes cap from there. If it's a homesteaded piece of property, we certainly could look at that value and make sure that that's correct. If she's on a fixed income and she is a senior, there are exemptions available to her, and we need to take a look at that, because with that it would really help her. One of the things I would suggest, or I've suggested to the select committee and to some other folks, is that we need to look at that what's called the super seniors exemption, because it's only set based on the federal poverty line, which is in the $37,000 or so a year, I believe. That could be higher, whether it be 200 or 300% of poverty, the federal poverty line, which would cover a lot more seniors.
Yeah, okay. So there's quite a lot of detail in that, Bob. And I mean, just to kind of really boil it down simply, it sounds like if folks have questions about their property tax, they should get in touch with their property tax appraiser and see what their options are.
Yeah, and again, so just to be clear, I'm the property appraiser, not the property tax assessor. Just to be clear, because we don't raise or lower taxes. The tax rates are set by the taxing authorities. We just figure out how much something is worth. So it's important to know what we do and what we don't do. But our our job is to figure out how much something is worth, and based on accepted procedures, and so we are not in the revenue business. So we want to talk to folks, and I've tried to be a very positive. I will be a very positive part of this discussion in terms of providing information both to the public as this goes forward, and people have to decide once it's on the ballot. And also, with my legislative background, having served in the legislature, some real tangible ideas. The key here is for the folks to realize, whenever you're talking about a big issue like this and a big discussion, which is a worthy discussion, because our system, our property tax system, we should look at it and see whether it's fair and equitable, and whether or not it should change. The big thing that people need to realize, the politics of it is very simple, because I don't like paying property taxes, and I'm the property.
Sure.
But so the politics is easy. It's the devil's in the details. So the policy is much more difficult, and then the practical reality is, when we start talking about it's $60 billion of revenue statewide. And so that's a sobering thought, is, okay, there's going to be a shortfall. How do we make that up? Well, sales tax is one way. Do we want 9, 10, 12% sales tax? Perhaps. But again,
if we can we can
get into the detail.
I do want to get into those details, Bob, and I appreciate you bringing them up. But if you could just kind of hold that thought for a minute. We've got a lot of callers, so I want to just get to a couple more calls if we could. Annie, I believe you're on the line. Annie, thoughts on this?
Hello?
Hi.
Anna?
Yeah, go for it.
Yes. Thank you. I actually disagree with the last couple of callers. I think that the property tax, getting rid of it completely, is going to benefit the wealthy the most. I'm a Hillsborough County homeowner, and my income's under $20,000, and I relate it to the tips tax. The tips tax, as a waitress, it only affects a few people. Then all the other people that don't get that benefit, that are still minimum wage earners, they're not getting that benefit. So the property tax, to me, is a similar thing. I think decreasing the sales tax overall would help lower income people, and they're the ones that need the most help. And because of the exemptions and things that are available for other people, my income's under $20,000, but I want to pay my taxes. I don't want to. The property taxes go up, and that's related to the home value going up.
Right.
So that's part of the problem too. So that's my thought.
Okay. Hey, thank you so much for your call. Really appreciate that. Let me see if we can go to one more call here. I think we've got Bonnie on the line. Bonnie?
Hello. I think if we increase the sales tax, that will penalize poor people. That is a regressive tax. And I also firmly believe that this is all about one more attempt to get rid of public education in Florida. I mean, they've been chipping away at it for years with the scholarships, the money all going to private schools, and this would be the death knell.
Bonnie, thank you so much for weighing in. There's an email here, too. I just wanted to read this if I could, from Anne. The governor believes that if homeowners pay property tax, you don't truly own your home. Ridiculous. Paying property tax is one of the most important investments people can make in their communities. Because I pay my property taxes, it is my police force I call. It is my school that our neighborhood children attend. It is my library that I frequent. If I want to complain about how taxes spent, I complain to my local leaders, not the state. The state is not a member of my community. I am. Thanks for that email. And I wanted to come to you, George, if I could. Manatee County Commissioner, you're kind of looking at this. I know that you reduced property taxes a bit, so you're kind of responding to your voters there?
Sure, yeah. I've been on the board for 5 years, and we've reduced the millage 4 of the last 5 years by a total of 0.5 mils. It's a pretty substantial reduction in millage. However, we also have hyperinflation, which is obviously driving up the values of the properties. It's not seen as much on the homesteaded side. Not saying it's not seen, but not as much. And that's where the kind of circle is about how they want to go about this, seemingly. But my homesteaded property has only gone up a total of 4.4% over the course of the last 5 years because of the Save Our Homes. The properties getting hit harder are either the newly purchased properties, which reset the assessment, or the non-homesteaded properties. And I would disagree with the premise that only homesteaded property owners are the ones paying taxes. That's just not necessarily true. I mean, renters still pay taxes through a pass-through because the owners of multifamily are going to increase the rents. Commercial property owners pay taxes. And the issue with this reduction or elimination of taxes, you never eliminate taxes, you shift taxes. And that's really what's happening here. And if you eliminate homestead taxes, municipalities are going to shift the tax burden further onto the non-homestead properties, inclusive of the multifamilies and the affordable housing.
Right.
And the commercial properties that rent space to mom and pops. So there has to be a solution. And right now, unfortunately, we're kind of swinging in the dark because all we keep hearing is one side of the equation, which is cut taxes, and everyone loves that in the polls.
Let's
told the other side.
If you can hold that thought, I do want to keep this conversation going. George Cruz, Manatee County Commissioner, if you could stay with us. Also with us is Bob Enrique, the Ellsbury County Property Appraiser. Do stay with us, Bob, if you can, and Monica White, who's a retired military member and homeowner. Let's keep this conversation going. You can weigh in on property taxes too. Do you think they're too high? Are you happy with the services you're getting? We're going to keep this conversation going on Florida Matters, live and local, in just a moment.
I'm Robin Young. Isn't it wild how hearing the soundtrack of a pivotal TV moment takes you back?
I just got chills hearing that again. Up and down my freaking body. How I feel so stupid.
We'll mark 20 years of Grey's Anatomy, the longest-running primetime medical drama, next time here and now.
We don't need anything.
Coming up at 1 after Florida Matters live and local.
Looking for something fun and cheap to do in the Tampa Bay area but don't know where to look? I'm Sky LeBron, and listen, I got you covered. The Bay Blend is a new podcast from WUSF each weekday morning, and in just about 5 minutes, I'll tell you about which events are hot, along with a quick hit of local news each day. And did I mention it's only like 5 minutes long? Check it out. I think you'll like it. And I'm not biased, I swear. That's The Bay Blend, wherever you get your podcasts, or at WUSF.org. See you there.
At WUSF, support comes from the people who listen, like you. Also, the law offices of Porter, Wright, Morris, and Arthur, LLP. Porter Wright is an established legal partner dedicated to serving the Tampa business community. Learn more at porterwright.com. Porter Wright, inspired every day. Visit Gainesville, Alachua County features the globally showcased French Moderns Monet to Matisse exhibition, new to the Harn Museum of Art. Weekends where the arts take center stage at visitgainesville.com.
Welcome back to Florida Matters, live and local. I'm Matthew Petty. Nobody cares about paying taxes, but are you in the same boat as Governor Ron DeSantis, who wants to reduce them severely or eliminate them altogether? Do you feel like you're getting good value for your property taxes? The number to call is 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. You can send us an email too. It's FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Got an email from William who writes, all these property owners concerned about equitable tax burden do not take into account that renters effectively pay property tax through their rent. They also get no homestead exemption and likely have to cover the higher increases that landlords receive through FMV adjustments. We're going to get to that in a moment. Let's go to the phones, though. We've got Jeremiah standing by. Jeremiah, you're on the air.
Yes, good afternoon. Great topic. My concern is that the investment class and the corporations will be disproportionately advantaged in the sense that without property taxes on their balance sheet, they'll be able to suck up even more properties, making home ownership further out of reach for your working class and lower income families. And that's my primary concern.
Jeremiah, thank you so much for your call. Appreciate you weighing in there. Let's get to the phones again. We will go to Janet. Janet, you're on the air.
Hi. A couple of my points were already taken by previous callers, so I will just mention one thing. One reason why our property taxes are so high is because our elected officials continually approve new development in our neighborhoods. And within about 2 or 3 years, it becomes apparent that we have to have more safety services, road improvements, and a lot of other kinds of services that more people require.
Right.
And that causes everyone's taxes to go up, even those of us who have been in the paying our taxes for years and years. We're impacted by this new development and the related costs.
Thank you so much for your call, Janet. Really appreciate that. And Terry, I think you're standing by as well. Terry, what are you thinking?
I agree with some of the things that have already been said since I got online. The main issue for me is that as a renter, I am paying property taxes through my rent for a property that cannot be homesteaded and is taxed at a higher rate than a home that someone owns and lives in. And I am concerned about the school system that is funded primarily through our property taxes. And even though I don't have a child.
Appreciate that. If you want to join this conversation, the number is 813-755-6562. We're talking about property taxes, some proposals on the table to eliminate or reduce property taxes. Where would that revenue come from if it was done away with? 813-755-6562. You can send us an email, and we're at FloridaMatters, I should say, at WUSF.org. Monica is with us. Monica White, retired military member, a homeowner, kind of worried about the property tax bill facing her. Hearing all these kind of concerns from folks, what's on your mind, Monica?
Primarily the services that we are receiving from the property taxes. Now, I looked at my bill and I noticed that a lot of the proportion or the millage was going towards like the schools local and statewide. Also the county's operating budgets for various projects and things. But when I think about it, it's just like, or at least from the homeowner perspective, I'm paying nearly, or at least proposed to pay up to nearly $10,000 a year. How is the library, the public schools, and so forth, all the different services, that doesn't really weigh heavily in my mind when I'm thinking of being displaced out of a home, of food, clothing, shelter, and health, some of the things that you need, just to be a human, to be able to stay alive. I'm not really worrying about the books going away when I'm thinking about keeping a roof over my head.
Yeah.
That's what, and we're not calling the fire department every day or the police.
You would hope you're not having to call the fire department or the police every day. That's a good point. I want to get an email in here from Jean McDonald, who writes, people who rent, we already read that one actually, people who rent always also pay property taxes. It's included in the rent payment. This is part of the war on poor people. A 20% sales tax hurts the poor the most. If you want to cut property taxes, then bring in an income tax to make up the difference. So I guess a thought on how to kind of make up the shortfall there. Bob, if I could come back to you, I mean, are you thinking as you listen to this discussion, like what are the alternatives if property taxes are reduced severely or if they go away altogether?
Well, just to be clear, from our perspective and my constitutional charge, I'm thinking about it personally probably, but not necessarily in my professional position. But I can tell you that it's so much of a larger discussion, and we all are feeling the economic insecurity that's out there. One of the things that has not been mentioned yet, obviously, is rising insurance costs, and I guarantee you, all of your callers, as well as any of the.
Oh, it sounds like we lost George. Sorry, Bob, rather. Are you still with us, Bob? Okay, let's go to the phones again. We've got Rich standing by. Rich, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Hi. So, I agree. Can you hear me?
Yep,
okay,
go for it. Yep.
Okay, great. I agree. I mean, you work hard, 30 years to pay off your mortgage, and now I'm working part-time for the property taxes, which is not a bad gig for me.
Mm-hmm.
So lowering it would be great, like an incentive for other people to follow that same goal to pay it off within 20 to 25 years, But overall, I think property taxes should be cut. But thanks again for taking my call.
Rich, thank you so much. Let's get Brian on the air. Brian, you're with us?
Yes. as a landlord in Florida, I think we should come up with programs to incentivize property tax control for those folks that are actually funding and creating opportunities for programs like Section 8 and different housing authorities. Similar to tax abatement programs that you see in the multifamily sector, I think there should be an incentive for private owners to seek home ownership, so that way we can help get through some of the pending wait lists. And there's thousands upon thousands of families on the wait list throughout most of the counties in Florida. So I think creating a program that can incentivize those that are going to expand rental opportunities for others is the way to go.
Yeah, thank you so much for that call, Brian. I wanted to come back to you, George, if you're still with us. George Cruz, Manatee County Commissioner. So, George, I mean, there's a lot of folks who are sort of saying, well, maybe it's a sales tax, maybe it's another kind of tax. The taxes are too high in general. What are you thinking about as you hear all these options floating around?
Well, I'm sure we're going to be given a presentation eventually from the state of what options are out there, because the option is not just cut the taxes. Like I said, that's not a viable option. If you look at your tax bill, a disproportionate share of it's not the pickleball courts and the frivolous things that people think government covers. My tax bill, over 40% of it's the schools, almost a quarter of it, 22% of it's the sheriff. We're being told they're not going to defund the police. We're being told they're not going to impact the schools. Well, then you can't eliminate my taxes unless you backstop that somehow. And we do not have the mechanisms at the local level to backstop that level of funding. So the only way to do it, presumably, is going to be through a dramatic increase in sales tax, which is, number one, a very regressive system. And it's going to really hit the multifamily renters and so forth, because they're still going to effectively be paying taxes if you don't eliminate the non-homestead taxes, and they're going to have the higher sales tax. But another point to it, and I think one of your callers referenced it, is sales taxes all go to the state. They do not stay local. If you live locally, you talk to your local representatives, you vote for your local representatives, you can have a voice. It's a little bit harder when you get to Tallahassee. And if we're shipping all of this revenue up there, and then every school board, every board of county commissioners, every city council, every fire department, every police, every sheriff has to go up hat in hand and beg for some of that money back to cover the bills, that money usually has some level of strings or assumptions attached to it.
Right.
And that's not going to necessarily be the views and the wants and the needs of the individual localities, which each county and city is unique and different here in the state of Florida, and should be able to conduct their budget accordingly.
Right, unless they institute like a half-penny sales tax to pay for something specific, which sometimes happens, like a transportation project or what have you. I wanted to just get a couple more calls in here if I could. A lot of folks on the line. Paul, you're on the air. What's on your mind?
Good afternoon. A lot of intelligent people have made great comments, and many of which really are very good. But another thing I would like to see is more representation. I live in Florida 20 years, yet my house is theoretically valued at a lot more than what I paid. I'm in a gated 55-plus community where we cannot have permanent residents under 22, yet we pay the same school tax as most everybody else. And our property is not influenced by how good the quality of school is. So to me, that's not a fair portion of my tax being paid.
Yeah. We're going to have to leave this call here, but I do appreciate you weighing in. I know there are a lot of folks who didn't get to weigh in with their questions, but I really appreciate the input from our listeners here. Clearly a topic that a lot of people are fired up about and interested in and want to see some solutions. Thank you so much for calling in and weighing in with your emails. I want to thank our guests as well. We've been speaking with George Cruz, Manatee County Commissioner. George, thank you so much for weighing in. Your insights are appreciated.
Sure. Thank you for having me on here.
Bob Enriquez was with us as well. Hillsborough County Property Appraiser. Bob, thank you so much.
I appreciate being on. I look forward, maybe we can do this again, because this is a topic that's not going to go away anytime soon.
It certainly is. And we're also joined by Monica White. Monica, thank you so much as well.
Thank you, Matthew. Thanks a lot.
That's our show for today. Executive producer is Grayson Doctor. Our producer is Amelie Harris. Our intern is Lily Belcher. Our engineers are Jackson Harp and Geo Garvin Jackson. Also composed our theme music. You can find us on WSF's YouTube channel. Stream it there. You can also check out the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much for listening and watching to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. We'll see you again tomorrow.
There were cheers when Malaysia's soccer team won a qualifying playoff game in June. But now a cheating scandal is calling all that into question. FIFA is accusing players of using fake birth certificates to get on the team. That story next time on